So then I haven't seen anyone entering anymore, so then I will already start. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you're joining from. Welcome to our 16th webinar on how to rock your poster. And we are very honored to welcome our new and next webinar speaker, Dr. Jambrovics, with his nickname Charlie. He's a Hungarian researcher and assistant professor at the University of Debrecen. His expertise lies in biochemistry and molecular biology, and he is passionate about teaching and enhancing scientific communication skills. And that's why we asked him today to join us and tell us about how to not only design a scientific poster, but also how to present it, and hopefully at the HUPO-EuPA conference. But of course, it's not limited only to this conference, but any other scientific conference where we hope you will rock your poster. First of all, we're of course happy that you're here, Charlie. And before we start off with your great, I'm sure, great webinar, we want to inform everyone about the next events that we as YPIC are organizing. So don't miss out on the next events that are coming up. First of all, we are very honored to announce that we, for the first time, are organizing a student proteomics fund, whereof the funding calls are opening on the 23rd of September. So tune up and check out our social medias and join there for more information regarding this funding. In addition, we would like to pay attention to the EuPA job fair that is organized by EuPA, and where also we from YPIC will be partly organizing some events where it's a free job fair where you as a student or a young researcher can, of course, exchange opportunities with potential hosting labs, but also organizations like MBO or Erasmus that can provide fellowships for mobilities. So feel free also to use the QR code there to register for this great EuPA event. And finally, of course, that's also where we came up with the idea of this webinar today regarding the HUPO-EuPA conference that is taking place in October 20 till 24th of October in Dresden, where we from YPIC are also partly helping out with organizing the ECR networking night, which is a great boat tour. So if you haven't booked that yet, also make sure to book that. We will also have some poster presentations telling you more about YPIC and our association, and an ECR booth where you can get great gifts. So feel free to join us there and join also the mentoring sessions that we, in collaboration with HUPO, are organizing. So then I would say the floor is yours, Charlie. I will then stop sharing my screen and we can continue with your screen. And then, for the other people, before we start, as you can see, my name is changed into questions. We will do it this way that you can send your questions in the chat towards questions to me. I will collect these questions, and my co-host Dina will then ask at the end of the webinar all the questions to Charlie. So this is just a way for us keeping track of which questions have already been asked, and so that there's some overview for this webinar. And in addition, also, Charlie gave us the opportunity to share the slides as well that he will be using for his webinar. So these can also be fine. We can also distribute these. So then enjoy, and see you later.
Okay, thank you so much for the introduction and also for the invitation. You know, the first time when I heard this, like, I was a bit skeptic, like how I'm going to tell you what to do with the really hard, how can I say, field of science. Because if somebody is working with proteins, now I think this is one of the most dry part. And you really need to be charismatic to sell the thing. So I hope today I can tell you some good pro tips, how you can improve the presentation and the poster. But before we start, do you hear me properly?
Yes, sounds good. And we see your screen. Perfect.
Good. Okay, so now let's jump in. So how to rock your poster? That's a really, impressive title, but before we really need to clarify what does it mean. So there is a kind of expectation how the scientific poster looks like. And if you ask me, I would say that this is something like super dry, super boring. And like, I never gonna go there and check that poster out. But it comes from the really, really young age of yours, when you just made like a single project in the primary school or in the secondary grammar school. But that was the same thing what you are doing now, because the scientific papers and posters, what you are making, this is the new generation or the next generation of that project work. But there are some problems with this one. And I'm going to tell you why. Because however you have this kind of expectations, the reality will kick in. And that means that you are trying to explain your topic in 3 or 4 minutes to a totally stranger, and you trying to make sure that whatever you're saying, this is easy to understand, and then that people, I mean, they will get the take-home message, what you're working on for 3-4 years. And be honest, it is sometimes possible, right? Because there is no more time for that. Maybe they are not really interested in your topic. So what can you do regarding this one? And I just trying to show you how you can change the whole point of view of a poster presentation. The first thing, you need to keep your poster as an opportunity, which means that it doesn't really matter that you are going to sell a lemonade, an ice cream, I don't know, a protein which is going to save the life of the whole humanity. But the thing is that you need to sell that information to those people who are not really interested in. And I know that this sounds really weird. I mean, why you want to, let's say, convince somebody that this is really important for them? And what I see after many conferences, that the problem is not the one that your friend will visit your poster, your supervisor will visit your poster, your friend of your supervisor's friend, and whatever, he or she is going to visit your poster. The thing is that you are going to win the whole conference if those people will come to your poster who doesn't know anything about you, they don't have any relation with your supervisor, just they interested in the topic or in the poster that you made. But how you can do this? First of all, let's talk about the size. I know this is an intriguing question. Does the size matter? Some cases not, but in the case of the poster, that is one of the biggest thing. Because if you go for a conference and they are limiting the space where you can set up your poster, now then you really need to think about like how much information you can put on the poster, or even like what is the space in front of the wall that you need to engage. If we are working with an A0 type, which is the biggest one, now that's a good thing because you have plenty of space and then you have plenty of chance to explain everything what you want. But there are some of the conferences when they are saying that maybe it is A1 or A3 or A2. These are smaller sizes. So that's why you really need to be careful what did you put on the poster. And also this is for the printed version of the posters, but nowadays they are trying to go with the more digital way. So I'm pretty sure that you attended before a conference in which they were using these big screens to show your poster. Now that's a totally different story, because then you really need to take care of what you put there, how you put there. And the reason behind, because besides the size, the type of the poster is also important. I'm pretty sure again that you use this one, the rolled paper one, right? What to tell? You know, when in my first PhD years, I went to a conference and everyone told me like, oh, you need to use this rolled poster one. And as it happens, usually I made my poster on the last day, and then I went to the printer on the very last minute, so they made it. And I was super happy. That was really amazing, beautiful. And they just rolled it up. it was really warm. And then we went to the place of the conference, and then I opened it up, and then I realized that because it was really warm and it was rolled up, the ink was demolished on the surface and stick to the other side as well. So basically in 2 minutes, I destroyed my poster in the place of the printer. So I really need to do something at the place of the conference. So I think that was that time when I was realizing that, okay, this is not for me. There are some pros and cons for the paper poster. For example, if you go for like a conference which is really close to your place, that's okay, because then you can travel with the poster easily. But as a con, I would say that if you travel like to a different country with a plane, now that could be problematic because you need to take that frame for the poster, and that makes it really problematic. So one of my pro tips is the fabric, or the other name is the textile poster, which can be folded. So if you travel like really like in a long distance conference, I would suggest to use this one, because then you can fold it into your luggage, and that would be really nice. And of course you can ask like, and what if it will be wrinkled, and what if there is some liquid goes on it? That's why it's so good, because the fabric folded poster, it is water resistant. You can wash it, you can iron it, and even if you fold it, if you leave it for 1 day just hanging on the, I don't know, the door, it is going to, let's say, I mean, the wrinkles are just gone. So that's why the fabric folded poster are really nice. Years ago, they said that the paper ones were super cheap compared to the folded fabric poster one, but nowadays these are the same price. So basically, if you have a choice, I would suggest you to use the fabric one, because it's really like super comfortable. Let's go further and let's see which other parts you can do in order to rock your poster at the conference. And now you can ask, like, why did I wrote here the conference? It just doesn't make any sense. And I know it's really, how can I say, like dummy, but you really need to check the conference, because what happened with me on the first time, I did not check the conference, and maybe I missed the information that the posters shouldn't be printed out. It should be kept on, what is that called? A USB. And I was like, but my poster is here, so what should I do with this one? So that's why it is important to check out the place where they are going to keep the poster session, so you have any kind of opportunity to install your poster, and also the size of the wall or the board, because many times I saw this one as well, that people are not preparing themselves, that the place where they can install the poster, it is not going to fit. So this is also problematic. And the third one, which is, I think this is the most trickiest, how long the poster session is. Why is it so important? Right? Because you go for a conference and finally, thanks God, just 2 days, and then the poster section will be done, and then I can go home. I hate this whole situation. Be honest, it happens with many of us, right? Because we are super stressed, and this is a huge pressure. But the way that how many days you have video posters, like the poster is hanging in that room, just think about yourself. How did you attend to a conference? You went for the lunch, and then you're trying to have some spare time. And if you have time, maybe you're just going to sneak into the room because you are curious about the other's poster. Now, these are the small spare times when your poster will get attention. Obviously, besides the official poster session. But that's why it is important, because if you have a long poster session days, when your poster is hanging around there, then you need to make your poster in a way that without you, the information and the take-home message should be clear. Many of the cases, I saw this one and also experienced that I did not have a proper audience when I was standing next to my poster. But then I realized after 2 days that people were coming to me and asking about my poster. However, I did not see anyone who was attending there. and that time. So that's why I'm pretty sure that if you consider this information, maybe for the future, that could be like a beneficial part. Now let's go further and let's see why many of the posters are not really good. And if you take a look at the screen now, this is because of the purpose, the color, the composition, and the clarity of the figures. The problem with this one, that however you have a poster and you are attending to a conference, it does not mean that that will be super successful. Because if your poster is boring, sorry, I'm saying this, I'm not going to visit that one. And it can be boring because of the color, because of the composition, and because of the clarity. This is how a single brain works. If it's interesting, I will go there and check it. If it's complicated, I'm not really sure that I'm going to go through all the steps and parts just to understand, because I'm tired. And that happens with the figures as well. So now let's see how you can destroy a figure, even in a publication and even on a poster. First, you are choosing the wrong purpose of the data representation. Because if you take a look at the whole data set that you can have as interactome researcher, as a biochemist, as an immunologist, then you have 4 chances. The first one, you're trying to explain a process or a method, which is good. The second one, you try to compare 2 things, or you want to show the contrast. The third one, then you want to change, for example, a treatment will cause a change somewhere. Or you trying to establish a relationship between 2 treatment or connections. So that's why, because of these 4 categories are there, it can help you to choose the proper representation regarding to the figures. So if you are aiming to explain a process or method, I advise you to use the flowcharts, the illustrations, timelines, all the diagrams, or the most famous one, the infographics. These are really, really good if you want to try to show a process, how you are isolating a protein, identifying a protein, or how the MS is working. If you work for the compare or contrast or trying to show you show the change, then I would suggest to use the bar charts, the line charts, box and whiskers, and bubble charts. Now this is a new thing, I mean, in research, because this is a 3-dimensional representation, and I'm not saying like the 3D representation. It means that you have 3 axes. So that's why you can show the size of the data, the color, and the place of the bubbles are showing you the different variants. So that's also one of the things that you can use. And if you want to show a relationship, or you want to prove that the treatment is causing this one, or like, I don't know, how many protein you have in that sample, which was the same in the other sample, you can use the Venn diagrams or even the heat maps. So these are like a kind of non-official categories that you can work. But the reason why it is important to clarify, because I saw many of the posters that the data is there, the idea is super cool, but the representation is awful. And the problem with that one, that even the presenter trying to explain, but it makes her or his task even harder. So let's go further. However, you have a good figure, the problem is that the audience is not fitting to your conference, which can be scientific, business one, or the public one. Today, I'm not going to tell any about the public ones, just about the scientific and the business one. And you can ask like why there's 2 different things. Because if you have a scientific audience, which means that your colleagues' friends, your colleagues' friends' colleagues, they need the raw data and the hard data. And if you want to make these people satisfied, you're really trying to show this kind of data where the number of the experiments are really visible. Don't ask why, but in science, as many years I'm here now, I see that these people, because you really need to convince them that whatever you've done, this is trustable. And that's really, really important. And these people will believe if you show how many repetition, how many biological parallel experiments you had. So if you have a scientific data, don't forget to show how many experiments did you do and how many individual value did you have. If you have a half, let's say, scientific and business conference, which is a bit different because business works in a different way, the aim in the case of the business that you're trying to fish out somebody who's going to support you, right? And I'm pretty sure that you have that friend who was disappearing for years, and then he's going to call you like, hey, do you have 3 minutes, because then maybe with the coffee we can like talk about something. And then you go for a meeting, and in 3 minutes with the coffee it reveals that he or she's working for a company and she wants to convince you to buy this and this and this. But if you recall a kind of situation like that, these people are going to show you graphs on which you see the trend lines. If I would take a look at this graph, I would say that, oh my gosh, year by year, this is changing all the time. I'm not really sure as a scientific person that this is something that I can trust in, but because the trend line is there, I would say that maybe you can say, yeah, it is increasing, maybe it's promising. Now, these are the tricks what the business audience needs, because this is how they can be, how can I say, influenced, but they will believe more if they see the trend. So I would suggest you that if you're looking for a cooperation with the businessman or like somebody from the business, you really need to show them the trend that was increasing, that was decreasing, whatever it says. So this is a kind of trick that you can use. So going further, the key of the poster and also the figures of the science is to keep the storytelling. And there are two options for that. You are going to put a whole fairy tale on the poster. I did it many times. Believe me, it is not going to work. Or the second one, in which you are trying to have an impact on the sensory system of the audience, which means that you show a figure which has some colors, and it should be easy to understand. On the figure, what you see now, this is a company brochure in which they trying to show how the system what they are using is different like the other companies. And without many of the lines of texts, it is easy to understand what is happening here. So in my opinion, if you can catch the attention of the audience without text, now that is the time when you win the whole story. And that should be the aim of the poster making, right? So now let's go through how you can do these figures more illustrative or how it can be catchy. The composition. Now, if you have a really bad composition on a poster, maybe you lost the whole thing. Obviously, there will be a few or like, I don't know, 3-4 people who will be there because they are really, really into the topic. But the thing is that you need to engage those people who doesn't know anything about you. And that can work with a good composition of the information. So for example, how you are compose your data, left to the right, top to the bottom, or in a circle, that's up to you. But the thing is that you need to design a flow. Also, you really need to emphasize what is in the focus. So the most important data should be the biggest one on the screen or the poster, because otherwise they just get, disappear between the lines. What is the typical mistake I saw is there are too many excess data that you're not talking about. And I know that you want to show that how big project you have, how hard did you work, but people need the hard data, the take-home message. So if you have an excess data which is not really related to the topic and hard to explain, even to yourself or to your supervisor, now you need to remove that one, because that is just taking the space. Make text easy to read. This is the next one. Usually I'm wearing my glasses, but without my glasses, I don't really see from a big distance. And if you, let's say, imagine the fact that you're in a conference, your poster is in front of you, and now imagine 4 more friends of you, and they are standing next to you. Now there is a huge crowd around the poster, right? So if I cannot see the poster, if I cannot read it, now again, it is starting to be like boring. And that's why I would say like, okay, maybe I'm going to 1 step back, 2 step back, and slowly, I'm going to disappear. Now, this is the way how you lose your audience. If your text is you are unable to read the text, now you're going to lose the audience, because nobody's going to go there with like, zoom in and like what is written there. So please take care of the size of the font, because it needs to be like easy to read. Reduce the contrast and the bold lines. Somehow there is like a wrong kind of trend that if you want to show the important part, then you are going to put the bold things in. I know how it works. But if I think about my uni years, I was highlighting everything. But then it is just losing its aim, right? So please try to contrast and try to use the bold fonts or lines, only that part when you really want to emphasize something. And believe me, I know that all the information that you put on the poster is important, but you really need to focus on the important part. Let's go further and remove the repeated elements. Now, this is also a kind of, let's say, disease of scientific people, because they're trying to repeat the elements because they're trying to lead your, how can I say, lead your line and the way that you need to think, because that experiment was done like that. And I know that sometimes it should be important, but if you constantly repeating the elements of your poster and research, then after a while it will be more annoying rather than helpful. So please take care of this one. And the last one, remove the shadows. Oh my gosh, I think this is the worst scenario that you have with the poster if you're using shadows, because that makes even the printing hard. And if it has shadows, it's more going to change into a primary school project rather than a scientific one. So these are some of the pro tips, but I want to show you some of the colors because these are also really, really important. So the first one, if you take a look at the left, what you see that, okay, there is a black, there is a purple, and there is a lavender something there, right? So in that case, if you take a look at this figure, I would say that it's boring. The colors are almost the same, and even I don't see the difference. But if I take a look at the right side, now here, I don't really care what is the figure about, but what I say that here, this red thing is going to show you something. Now that happens many with us as well, that because we want to show all the data and the representation can be different, but if you put almost the same, like because the data has the same values, then you put it in grayscale and then you just put in a colored version, the one that you want to show that, hey guys, this is different. This is the thing that you need to take care of. Now that would be really amazing. Let's talk about the colors because that's also important. I saw many worst, let's say, colors, because what happens, we are choosing the 2 colors which are almost on the same palette size, or we are using red and green. Maybe you heard about it, but red and green is not really good because colorblind people won't see anything. But if you take a look about how the heat maps are made, or how the GFP and the cherry red is made, now that could be really hard if you have a colorblind colleague. But what people said, that if you're using the opposite color palette, like yellow and blue, orange or blue, or green and lavender, now these are the best color combinations which can help you. And also, if you, this is also a pro tip, you're not sure that maybe your figure is visible or not for these people, you can choose the V's palette, which is a tool to test the color accessibility. And if you upload the figure, it shows you immediately that with the deficiency, how it would look like. Also, there's another trick. If you're trying to lead the attention of your audience without saying much or without putting a lot of text, which means that put the whole thing in order. Because, for example, here on the figure shows that there was a data analysis, and whatever they did, Excel wins, right? And obviously, it is clear from this figure. But if I take a look at the right one, I do not, I mean, it's not needed to go through all of them because Excel is striking here. So that could be also a really good part here when you put the samples in order. So the audience doesn't really need to go through what is higher, what is lower, and so on. But there is one checkpoint system in which you can help for yourself as well. The first one, does the figure tell you a story without a text? If it's yes, then you shouldn't do anything. My biggest problem with these presentations is that I really require the person to stand there and explain me because I have no clue what is happening there. And that maybe you can use it for the figure making when for the publications you are doing, but the figure alone needs to be informative enough to understand the story. The second one, can you remove or adjust the elements which are unnecessary there? So if you find something that will catch your attention, but it does not have any information or additional aim, then you need to remove it. Because just think about your audience. They are going to also pick that red thing on the right side. And the third one, does the color palette enhance or distract from the story? Now, I think this is also really tricky because people think that if something is colorful, then that would be catchy. Yeah, sometimes, but 99% of the cases, it is distracting because you lost in the colors and it's really hard to understand the story. So if you have a color palette which is going to distract you, then you really need to change. And now I want to show you something, the big no-no type of posters. I'm pretty sure that you have also PTSD from the university lectures when people are using the dark blue background with the yellow color text, right? So that is something which is able to kill your eyes in minutes. The same thing happens here. This is like a huge library. People are not coming to a conference to read. If they would do it, then they would go to the library and not to the conference. People trying to catch some information, they are looking for new perspectives and new findings, which is striking, which is easy to understand, but not like this. Also, I'm trying to show you this. The left one is one of my favorites. I don't know what happened here. Literally, I have no clue. The red and the green and the small tables and some of the text which are like white. Just to tell you, there are a lot of studies they find now, psychologists, that if something is in red, your brain takes more and more time to digest the information because the red is a stop sign. So whatever you highlight in red, it is really hard to digest. Whatever you put in green or orange, now that helps your brain to get the information more easy. But if I take a look at this figure on the left, I would say that, oh my gosh, something red, 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 red. And even I feel like now anxious about like, what is going on here? And on the right side as well, because if you take a look at this one, this is the library situation again. Oh, and yeah, this is one of my favorite. 100% I won't visit this poster because this is just text. What will the presenter tells me afterwards? Like they are going to read the story or what? So basically, there are many of the cases when people are just trying to show how hard they worked. And we all know that you worked your ass off in the lab, but the take-home message needs to be easy to digest. So that's why if you have many text on your poster with boring bar charts and excess information which is not helping you to understand the story, then literally you need to change. Try to use more infographics. Try to use a logic and flow in which the figures, motifs, and the representation can help you to follow up the story. Sometimes I think less is more. I can't believe I said that once, but yeah, because if there is an infographic that you show and it also buries the information, then you win the task. You shouldn't do anything else. That's the thing. Because if you are there, you are going to explain the rest of the poster, but you need to catch first the audience. This is a really good representation for a poster. I really like this one. That's why I put it here, because on the left, you see how the original poster looks like. On the right, how it was made. And it is not overcrowded. It is not super colorful, whatever. And I'm pretty sure that without knowing the topic, you see that this is about the crabs, the invaders, and with the small graphics, it's really easy to digest. So this could be also one of the best. So now you can ask why this lady is here with that old truck, right? This Mercedes, because that happens. What I see on these conferences that people were taking the best dress, right? Because, oh my gosh, this is my first poster to show, but the poster is like 100 years old Mercedes. So with these tricks, you can enhance to try to sell your poster like this. So I hope that this helps you. But before we finish, I'm trying to show you some tricks how you can be a better presenter besides your poster. And that's why these figures are showing you the main importance of this one. You really need to keep it simple. Tell me why. Because if you are starting with a new member, like somebody from the audience steps next to your poster, and then you know that the second mutation of the third amino acid is going to change into this one, and then the activity will change to that one and that one. Obviously, these people are there because they are curious about the research field that you are working in. But if you are just bombing them with super detailed information and you do not have a simple, short visual representation what you are talking about, then people will lost you in the very first minute. So try to keep it simple. The second one, you need to have a structure. The introduction, the objective, the overview, the main results you have, and the summary and the conclusion. Never ever miss out any of these ones, because when you're trying to explain it, you really need to go through these problematic parts. This one is really funny because the visual aids helping you, or they can basically destroy your whole presentation. But if you take a look at this figure on the left, whatever it is written on the right, the text, what you see that, okay, this is the coffee bean and there is one animal to collect. And then if you see coffee is made. So without knowing what is written down in the text, from the figure, I'm pretty sure that you can recall that this caffeine was an evolutionary step to keep the plants alive. Unfortunately, we use it now as a coffee. So that's why these visual aids are really important for you, just to keep your audience and also just to keep the memory of your super poster. try to use the design techniques and the trends. Like, don't put a lot of text on it, try to use minimalistic backgrounds, and try to use pastel shades. That helps also the information to be digested more. And the most important, which is here, orange, don't read from your poster, because people will say like, why you are here then? I can read it too. You know, this is really disappointing when somebody has a really good topic and then next to her or his poster, he's reading or she's reading. Come on, just think about it, how much you put in it, how hard you worked on it. Own your own results and be proud of that, because that should be the aim of this whole poster presentation. That's why you are there, to show off that, hey guys, that's what I did. And please take a look at this one and this one. So sometimes that is the one with what I miss from these poster presentations. And the biggest pro tip ever, you need to consider your audience as deaf and blind grandmas and grandpas. Because if they cannot read, if they won't hear you, they're not going to be there. So if you change, for example, the font size like this, now that is the thing I'm going to check it out. There's a rule basically for the presentation, what you can use also if you need. It was made by an Apple specialist, and he said that 10 slides, 20 minutes, that's good. But the most important here for you guys, what I wanted to emphasize, the size of 30-point font. You know, first when I heard this one, I would be skeptic, and I was super skeptic. But if you take a look at the first line here, and then the second one, now that's the difference. And that's what I mentioned before. If I don't see, I won't go there. That's the key. So try to consider your audience as deaf and blind people, because if it's bigger and if it's visible, people will see it, people will go there. The second one, smile and make the eye contact, because, you know, you need to sell your lemonade, right? So if you are happy and you are proud of your work, people will catch that energy, and that's why you engage more and more audience. Work on your stage presence also. If you are standing next to your poster like, oh my gosh, what will happen? Like, they are going to come and ask me, and you are scared, people won't come because they see that you are scared like hell. So they just don't want to cooperate in that sense. So try to be proud there and stand there and be the owner of the poster. That's really also important. Show your passion. This relates to the previous one. Plan your delivery, which means that if, for example, if you go for a conference and they finally select you for a presentation, an oral presentation, now that's really stressed, right? Because what should I say? I have only 3 minutes. Just remember, a good representation and a good presentation is not because you have 3 hours. 3 hours, everyone can tell you the whole story, the whatever you've done. In 3 minutes, if you can give the take-home message, now that's a skill. So that's why at home, try to plan your delivery and practice, even for your grandma, even for your cat. That's what I do. Just make them sit there and try to explain, because if they are going to ask something that it was not good or like they don't understand, now that is the point when you can see like, oh, maybe they are right, like there is one missing piece there. So these are helping you a lot. And my final pro tips, the fabric folded posters. The deaf and blind audience, check out the poster infos when you go for a conference, and really make it simple. And also avoid using all the colors, as you are not a rainbow, I don't know, fighter, and the field backgrounds, because that can be super, super distracting. So, and there is one more thing before I closing my presentation. Keep the rules of the meeting. I know that we are in a new generation's world when everything needs to be posted. But if the meeting has a rule in which they said that everything is prohibited because these are unpublished data, you shouldn't do what it happened here. Oh my gosh, this is the first meeting of my life. We all know that you are super proud that finally you go with the poster, but if there is an information on the poster and somebody is just checking it, and just let's imagine you are 3 in the same lab, and whatever taking the information, they have like, I don't know, 40 students in that lab. In 2 days, they are going to make it what you were working for 4 years. And if they published that one earlier, now you need to cite them. So that's why be really like strict for the rules of the meeting and also for your own sake. If you are here in Debrecen and also wants to get more about these, there is a course I'm teaching, this validation, representation, and evaluation of scientific results. And this is also part of it. Feel free to come. I would be super glad to teach you more and more tips. And finally, thanks so much for your attention. I hope it helped. And yeah, now I'm full of ears. Let's go with the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Charlie, for this insightful and fruitful presentation that you just gave right now. And I'm pretty sure that people from the audience will take the steps and carry it when they will do their posters for the YPIC. So yeah, thank you. We'll start with the questions. So the first one is actually, I was personally wondering, many new posters and abstracts have capturing titles such as "If life give you lemon, squeeze them and extract X protein." Do you think this is the modern way of thinking of a poster, or do you think it distracts people or the public from the scope? Because sometimes I'm like, okay, I can just add a touch for it to make it a little bit more passionate, but sometimes I'm afraid it's less serious and less scientific. So what do you think of that?
In my point of view, I would love that one. Because you know what happens, like even my topic, the whole title is way too long. And even if I'm starting to say from the beginning at the end, that's like too long. So if you have a catchy title, that is also really important because that will make the magic. That happens with me on another conference. I saw like, is it true that if you are drinking, you can lose weight? And that was the first thing that, oh my gosh, maybe that would be interesting. And it was about resveratrol and all the biochemical effect, but that was the key. Everyone was there next to the poster. So feel free to use these because that can help you to like contribution.
Okay, great. So the second question we have is like, how do you deal with figure captions on poster? Like, for example, figure 1, blah, blah, blah. Just like they are in papers. Do you recommend doing that or rather a summary text?
You know, this is a tricky question because I would say that it depends partially on your supervisor. What is the pattern that you inherited year by year? But if you don't have a clear line of ideas or like the way that you think about your project, that can help you, the audience, when you are not there. Because then they say like, oh, this is the first figure, this is the second one. So this is the way I need to follow the route, what the author of the poster made. And also, if it's not, there are some strict conferences when, just think about bioinformaticians, and all those people who are really itchy about like how many repetition you have, what is the significance, which test did you use. Now, that's why I was saying that check the conference, because if you have like these two many details, you really need to add. But the numbering and the enumeration can help you if you're not there.
Okay. Okay, that has a point. I think it's useful. Question number 3. I find it hard to imagine if my figures will be readable from a distance. Do you have any pro tip how to upfront check for this? Also regarding the quality.
Okay. Yeah, I have a tip for you guys. If you are making your figure, and also this is a problem here, that people are not using the proper size and the space of the canvas. So if you set up your laptop, because that happens, right? Because you're taking a look at your figure on your laptop, oh my gosh, this is so nice, it will be visible, and then you print it out and nothing is visible there. It is because the zoom that you're using. So what I usually says, said that if you have the magnification on 75% in your PowerPoint, in your whatever image you make, and if it's readable and visible, then people will see it. At that magnification, if it's not, you are unable to read it or see it, they won't see it. So I think this is a kind of trick and tip that you can use. 75%, that should be readable.
Yes, and I also think like regarding the resolution, like sometimes it's recommended in some journals, like when you post a figure, it should be this minimum resolution. So I also think using that same figure in the same poster is going to be also useful. Okay, question number 4. Where do you best put the references? In case you have published the data already or used some background information from some other paper.
That's a tricky one. Usually I'm not putting much on my posters. What I do, if the data is already published, obviously I'm going to put there, because that's how people will find it afterwards if they're really interested in. If there is an unpublished data set on the the poster, and there are some of the crucial best 3 references, which helps you to understand the topic, the objective, or the whole idea, that's what I do. So usually I'm not putting more than 5 altogether references if it's unpublished. If you already have a published data, only 3.
Useful, thank you. Question number 5. I saw it more and more often that people add a photo, email, social media, etc. into their poster. Is that recommended?
We are now in a kind of generation when the self-presentation is important. And just imagine yourself, you're in a conference and 400 people are there. And even, for example, you are thinking about how should I pronounce your name, or is it a male or it is a female? If you have like a huge conference, like more than 100 people, I would suggest you to put your picture on the bottom left, bottom right, wherever your email address and all your information is there, because people will recognize you. Because many of the cases it happens like, oh my gosh, that was a girl who made this, but where is she now, right? And the only thing what you can have, like, check the poster, the abstract book, and then find the email and, hey, I saw your poster, but we did not have time to blah, blah. So in that sense, if you have a big conference, that could be beneficial. If you have a small conference, like 40 people, I'm pretty sure that that's not that necessary.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there a software you would recommend to prepare for a poster? And are you familiar with poster function of BioRender? Would you recommend that?
Okay. I'm making all my posters in PPT because in that sense, if I set the PPT size to A0, then that helps me to put my figures there. And for me, it's really easy. But I also know the BioRender poster section and poster options that you can make. This is also really nice. But my problem is that many of you are using none that modern softwares, even for proteomics. And that can be hard. However, BioRender has like multiple accessibility now. It's really good because the PDB database is also there, and copy paste is also good. But I would say that if you put everything in BioRender, it has its own style. And then you come with your, let's say, proteomic figures, which is not every case fits into that style. That could be distracting. So I think something in the middle. So you prepare something in BioRender, you put it in the PPT, or something from the PPT into BioRender. Both can work. I'm pretty sure that it depends on your supervisor.
Yeah, personally, I agree, because I also use PPT, but sometimes when someone just run out of ideas and style, I just go to BioRender, try to get some ideas and some things and just go to my PPT. Yeah. Okay, question number 7. How should I engage with attendees during the poster session? You know this awkward moment when you are in front of your poster and you don't know if you should interact or let person read the poster. In other words, is there a best way to interact with the crowd when in front of your poster, or should it just be spontaneous?
You know, now this is the awkward situation for sure, because you are there because you want to engage the audience, but also like, why should I convince them that, hey, come over here and see my post, please come. So I think that's the worst that you can do when you are just putting on your, you know, the puppy face that, hey, can you just help me out because I'm so alone here. You shouldn't be. You know what happens if you stand next to your poster, and this is okay, now a kind of like magic, how can I say, but that's what I experienced. If I was standing next to my poster and I was looking at like, oh my gosh, that's really nice, that's really nice, and then people came like, oh, what did you see, like, why is it, and then I'm starting to explain, and then they realize that, oh my gosh, I was the author of the poster. So I know this is a kind of trick like from behind, but that can help you, because in that sense, even for yourself, you get the self, how can I say, confidence, sorry, to, okay, let's explain then. So that can work. Let's try this out.
Okay, perfect. I just have one last question, and the last question is there a way, let's say either a presentation or a poster of like, if you presenting unpublished data, is there a way of like maybe protecting that, or putting, I heard once like you can put something in the background so people actually like cannot take pictures from that and they know it's unpublished data. Is there anything that you would do personally if you have interesting data that you're presenting and it's not published yet, that you would do to make take extra cautions, or you just try to present?
You know, yeah, this is a kind of, how can I say, we also, I mean, in our lab, or one of my friends, they faced a situation that they put everything on the poster. Somebody took a picture, and because everything was written step by step, all the steps, even how many microreaders they did add, and then the publication came, and then they said like, from where they know what we did, and that was the problem. So I'm pretty sure that if you make less, which is more, so you show what you have done, you show a figure, but you did not put all the required step of the methodology, just in big general that, okay, that was a Western blot, that was a qPCR. So if you're not putting everything on the table, and it's up to you what you want to show, then I think this is a kind of gentle way to avoid these kind of troubles afterwards.
Okay, I see. Thank you so much. But okay, so we have one last question. Sorry, it's
okay.
just okay, perfect. I think people are engaging and they're really interested, so that's why. So when I'm explaining my poster to some people and few others come to see the poster in the middle of the explanation to the first group, what should I do? Start again from the beginning? Should I acknowledge them and possibly integrate them into the conversation, or just focus on the first group? This is a really interesting question.
Yeah. You know, as a teacher, what I learned, that if you lose one of your students, meanwhile you are presenting or explaining, then you lost the whole seminar and even the presentation. If somebody is joining later to the explanation, and if you realize that somebody just came, I think this is really friendly and kind when you are saying, for those who just came, I was explaining that this is the one that we were working on. And in that sense, you are not hurting those ones who are already there. And even if those people who are already there maybe lost some of your points, then finally they get like, okay, oh yeah, that was the one that he was explaining. So I think the advice here, that if somebody is coming lately, try to engage them and even like point them out that for those who came late, because this is gentle, but also you are incorporating into the audience.
Okay, this is very insightful. Thank you so much for all the time you dedicated and for the great insights that you gave us. I think personally this is very helpful, and also like for the audience, I think so as well from the engagement. So thank you all for being here with us today. Thank you so much, Charlie, for your time and so on. And yeah, hope to see you in our next webinar, everyone.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Sure. Thank you.